Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex. And before we get into today's topic, I want to remind you guys that the 50 boost points from the special login event will go into your inbox with a 6-day decay, so you can save those for the Galactus GBR, and those 50 stacking on top with your 100 base boost points will give you a up to 4 times boost multiplier, which can multiply your 1 biometric of Silver Surfer up to 5, or it could possibly multiply, if you get 2 biometrics in one drop, it could multiply that up to 8. So a really good opportunity to shorten the number of runs that you need to do for Silver Surfer, even if you are, a newer player, intermediate player, and you're getting someone else to carry you. But Galactus and Silver Surfer are both universal types, which relates heavily to today's topic, which explores the idea of the next tier 3 being universal, and why it's great to get other types of universals. It's good to get combat and speed type universals. I'm kind of tired of blast right now, but universal would be possibly the best one to get next, and I'll try to explain why. And in addition to that, the idea of universal type characters really intersects with 2 other popular ideas, one being that Netmarble has created an original character that is blast type, they created an original character that is speed type, and then of course more recently they created Crescent, who is an original character that is combat, but there's no original male character, and there's no original universal. So it'd be very cool to see that. It would also be very cool to see a universal have their own epic quest, because that has also never been done. We've seen 2 combats, a blast and a speed, which is also something that the community talks about a lot. And then additionally, people are speculating, they've been speculating since Spider-Man, what's the next update going to be? Because now there are no MCU titles to rely on and say, okay, yeah, we're definitely getting an update for that. We're definitely going to get these characters, definitely going to get these uniforms, etc. It could basically be anything. So people look to comics, they were looking at War of the Realms, they're looking at, Carnage and the symbiotes and stuff like that. So it's interesting, and it does open the door for more universals. Now, if we take a look at the percentage of tier 3s relative to the overall pool, it's not as bad as I make it sound. Combat has 58 and 5 tier 3s, Blast has 53 and 5, Speed has 48 and 4, and then Universal has 3 and 38 characters in total. So if you take those as percentages, they're really not that far off. Blast has the most; they have almost 10% of their roster being tier 3able in terms of within just the blast category, and then for Universal we're down at 7.8%. But this is really splitting hairs. You're talking about less than 3%, right, Cynicalex? Well, the Universal class in general is quite unique because it does have not only a lot of super powerful and super popular characters. You're talking like Odin, Thanos, Doctor Doom. These are characters that have dominated comics. Silver Surfer. They're higher power level than almost every other character. They're in a league of their own for a reason. And then you also have the other fact that the Universal class carries by far the most native tier 2s. Now you can chalk this up to design choices back when the game was only, in its infancy, less than 2 years old, because that's when we were introduced to the world bosses and the, different, was it the 2-year anniversary or the 1-year anniversary? But anyways, we got the world bosses, and then they've repeated that with World Boss Ultimate and things like that. So there have been a lot of different reasons why the Universal class has kind of been different and separate from Combat, Blast, and Speed. So I do feel weird comparing them, but the comparison becomes a little bit more clear, or at least it makes a little bit more sense, and why a Universal Tier 3 would benefit the game the most when you look at something like the meta snapshot. So I don't put any Universals in the toilet tier just because Universals are by far the best for Shadowland. So saying the Universals are the best for Shadowland would probably work against my argument. Well, why do we need a Universal Tier 3 then? They're already good. The idea of Tier 3s is to take a character that's not good and make them great. Captain America was garbage before he got his Tier 3, before he got his Infinity War uniform, and so on and so forth. But then you look at pretty much everyone outside of the mythic tier of Universals, and you start to realize what I'm saying. Although these characters, maybe not these characters, but although the characters in the legendary, heroic, and rare tiers of Universal are good or useful in some way, it's extremely limited. And unlike the characters in the unlike the non-Universals in the legendary tier, Spider-Man, Nick Fury, Minerva, Invisible Woman, Magneto, Human Torch, War Machine, all of these characters, they have their value and they have their uses. But who plays with Cull Obsidian? Let's be honest. Besides new players, why would you play with Iron Hammer when you could play with a better character? Proxima Midnight has very limited value nowadays. Blue Marvel as well. Ebony's basically just used for his support. Anti-Man is used by some players, but he's not that great outside of Shadowland. Once again, Nova and Corvus are probably one of the only exceptions, but you can see what I'm saying. And even though they have a smaller overall pool, like I said, there's only 38 universals, but there's like 50 plus combat types. The universal class is pretty small in comparison when we get into the higher tiers. Now, they do have a bit of top-heavy power players, but still, Silver Surfer was added here, you know, recently. Of course, Dr. Doom was also added recently. Victorious was also introduced. So if you take away the characters that were introduced in 2019, there's only 2 characters left. And the other 2 characters, Thanos and Captain Marvel, got their buffs in 2019. So if we just rewind back to 2018, is there even a single universal type at the top of the meta? Not really. I guess it would be Thor? Yeah, it starts to look really lopsided, and on top of that, there's just so many. If we take a look here, so many bad universals, and this is really the core, the heart of my argument. There's so many bad universals that could be made godly with a rework and a tier 3. Angela is great. Black Bolt is absolutely fantastic. He's been garbage forever, and he would be an amazing as a tier 3. As much as we might dislike the way that they were introduced to the game, any one of the universals, or the ultimates as universals, if they were chosen for tier 3, would be absolutely amazing. Imagine a Dick Rider uniform and tier 3 for Nova. He would dominate the meta. Same thing with Anti-Man, same thing with Blue Marvel defensively. You know, Clea is pretty cool. Destroyer is kind of lame, but even characters like Corvus, Dr. Doom, we all thought Dr. Doom was going to get a tier 3 instead of Namor. Dormammu's been terrible for so long. He would be an amazing tier 3 with like an accompanying GBR stage. Ghost Rider, I mean, either one of these Ghost Riders would be amazing as a tier 3, and he has never been good, so that would be a huge boost to his fans. Like, if he got a Halloween tier 3, how amazing that would be. And if he was like completely immune to fire damage, that would create some cool counters. Heimdall is quite powerful, and he had his role in comics and stuff like that. Hyperion is literally, Marvel's Superman. He should be way stronger than he is, and a tier 3 could put him in that place with enough of a stat bump. Everybody loves Loki. The list goes on and on. Morgan Le Fay taught Dr. Doom what he knows as far as magic goes. Odin has been terrible for so long, but he doesn't deserve to be because he's a freaking Asgardian god, and so on. I mean, Quasar's got the bands. Like, there's really an argument to be made for almost every single character on this list besides Supergiant, because everybody hates Supergiant. But seriously, there's so many marquee, so many classic Marvel characters, so many huge names: Doctor Doom, Black Bolt, Ghost Rider, Odin, Dormammu, Loki, Nova, Quasar. There's so many. Hyperion. Everybody knows these characters' names. And then we're going to get some goofy-ass tier 3 speed. My prediction is we are going to get a tier 3 speed, by the way, for those of you that are wondering. I don't know who it's going to be. It might be a new character. It might be someone like Quicksilver. I'm not exactly sure. If they do an X-Men update, it could be someone like Rogue to provide some relief to the sort of stifling and suffocating blast meta of tier 3s. But I really do think that, I want to start the conversation in the community, but I do really think that Netmarble should look into and strongly consider putting out even like back-to-back universal tier 3s, really bringing some of these characters out of the mud. Because as much as I like the tier 3s that we have, as much as I like seeing strong characters become stronger, I was really happy for Doctor Strange getting his tier 3. Jean Grey's fun to play with, although she's super frustrating in PvP. She's very fun in PvE, and she makes, content easier, especially when you're doing like GBR. She can die and stuff like that. She comes back to life. So this is all well and good, but really I think the essence, overall, the essence of tier 3, of opening those patch notes and scrolling and seeing who's getting their tier 3, is really to take a character that is sort of average or just slightly above average or below average, and really elevating them to that point and giving them at least a month at the top. You guys make fun of me for it, and it's true. Wolverine is not that great, but when he got his tier 3, he was good. He was one of the best for a short time. It wasn't very long, I'll give you that. It was like a month or less because Thanos came right after, and Thanos is basically a better version of Wolverine. But he had his time, and I just want other characters to have their time. So as much as I want to see a powerful character, I mean like a character that's powerful now, like Quicksilver, becoming even more powerful, because it will help rebalance some of the game modes that have become kind of repetitive and stale. I mean, if you just go through Platinum or Vibranium, it's all Tier 3 Jean Grey and Tier 3 Captain Marvel everywhere. As much as I would like that, I think it would be better for the game, and I think it's better for the players to take a bad character, even if they're free to play. It doesn't really matter. People are still going to pay for the CCF packs to get them to Tier 3 and to rank them up in Gear 25 and all that stuff. To take one of these characters, like take Hellstorm. I don't really care who you take. Give them a rework, give them a new uniform, make them strong, and make them Tier 3able to really give them, you know, they don't have to be at the tippy top, but if they're at least within the top 10% of characters, even if it's just for a couple of months and then they get superseded by someone later, that is really something that I think would please all fans. Because on the one hand, if you are a super fan of that character, you're gonna pool all of your resources, save everything, and dump it into that character, and you'll be happy because they're very strong. And then on the flip side, for whales and for super competitive players, they're gonna Tier 3 the character anyway. As much as I dislike power creep, I really think that with a roster this large, there's really only two ways to go about it. The first way to go about it, and frankly the better way for the kind of ecology, I guess, or the ecosystem of the game, is to introduce content that most of the roster can participate in. Shadowland is great, but we need something like an Alliance War, where, you know, all of your roster is going to matter, or at least like 75% of your roster is going to matter, so that those bad characters don't seem bad anymore. The second way is to take those bad characters out of the dirt and really elevate them with something like a Tier 3. So let me know what you think of the sort of universal Tier 3 thesis or discussion. I personally would be happy with basically any of the universal characters getting their Tier 3. Honestly, even someone like Jane Foster or Supergiant. I honestly memed about Destroyer, but I wouldn't mind like a Super Reflect Destroyer Tier 3 if he could reflect through iframes. That would be amazing and hilarious, and it would make for some pretty funny PvP content, just watching characters like Jean Grey and Captain Marvel kill themselves to the massive reflect of the Uru armor thing, Destroyer thing, enchanted thing. But anyways, with that being said, let me know what you guys think of my ideas. Let me know what you want to see next. Let me know what Tier 3 you think is coming next, and what update you think is coming next. Possibly War of the Realms, which feeds really into universal types. Possibly pretty much anything else. Just flip through a bunch of comics, flip through a bunch of recent content, close your eyes and point a finger, and we might be getting an update on that. Hit me up down below in the comments, hit me up on Discord, Twitter, etc. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you later today. Take care.